One thing even they didn't know, though, I'm wired too. I replaced 98% of my own noodles nanotissue years ago. But mine's different. It's built to send, to transmit, whereas every other nanocell that I put out there, including the ones in your head cable, designed to receive. I think it, and you do it. We're talking every Slayer, everyone in Society City. I believe your better half would fall under that category, provided they're within range of my transmitters.
Very nice, Castle. So you got an army of psychotics and deviants to dance around for you.
You're thinking small, Cable, but not as small as me. See, nanocells are real small, 1,000 times smaller than these dust particulates. You inhale it, they go to work replicating, spreading like a virus.
Spreading like a virus.
It's multiplying in exponentials. 6 months' time, I could have 100 million people. Converted ditch diggers, porn stars, and presidents. Not one would be the wiser. 100 million people who buy what I want them to buy and vote how I want them to vote. Do pretty much damn well anything I figure they ought to do.
Okay, so let's take a look at who these people are who are believers in this human extinction.
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the president, who is a young global leader, but...
So when he keeps saying that phrase over and over, young global leaders, that's the World Economic Forum's young global leaders, where he's saying all of these presidents and prime ministers. He talks about Merkel, he talks about Trudeau, he talks about Vladimir Putin, he talks about the president of Argentina, France. He's saying they've taken over the governments of the world. That's what he says. And he even goes down to talk about their cabinets. Like, we're talking about rhinos in our Congress and stuff like that. He says a full 50% of Trudeau's cabinet are cabal members. So they basically recruit the same exact way that the Masonic lodges recruit. They go into every small local community, no matter how small your town is, there's a Masonic lodge, and they're in charge of recruiting the local business leaders, the local politicians, the people they see as the ruling class at the very lowest level. And so the Freemasons invite them in and start the initiation process. Well, amongst the ruling class and the really rich billionaires and celebrities and athletes and politicians and all that, they do the same exact thing. So you can see right here who they are. You have the children of the Rothschilds, you have Zuckerberg and the big tech, you have the athletes, of course the media, tons of media always. The people that they actually want to destroy, they target those communities the hardest. Like we see the leftists have convinced minority groups that they're the champions of, these minorities when they're the first to go. Just like the Masonic Denver airport, the New World Airport, right? They call it, that infamous mural. I mean, it says it all. They don't care about any of the peoples of the world. It shows all of the people of the world grieving with their dying children, right? All the humans. And then they have this alien-faced sort of thing, wearing a Nazi uniform, that's its disguise, wielding a Muslim sword, right? Because that's what they tell us. Those Islamic terrorists, that's how they passed the Patriot Act. They wield the Muslim sword, right, to attack the Christian symbol, the dove of the Holy Spirit. And here's another panel of the mural where they're showing like a zoo of extinct animals. And who are the first ones they show as dead in the caskets? Black people, indigenous people, and Christians and Jews, people of the book, the Bible. And it shows her holding a Bible with a Jewish star and a cross. So it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching that they are so blatantly, it's just like Planned Parenthood. How Margaret Sanger, she targeted the Black communities. She didn't think that they should reproduce. She thought that they were reproducing too fast. It was population control. She wanted them to kill their offspring. They're not doing any favors, the CDC, when they have targeted sending out these injections over the last 40 or 50 years, just like the Tuskegee experiments, and they show up in these underserved communities, right? And they're like, hey, we'll come right to your door and give you an injection. Remember when FEMA was going door to door when they first rolled out these gene therapy injections? Oh, well, we're going to the poor communities, the minority communities, and, because they're not coming in to get their augmentation. So we'll go right to their door and give it to them in their house. They specifically go and recruit leaders to preach this propaganda to those communities, the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and all of them to come along now, come along with the New World Order. So they have targeted every ethnicity of humankind. And this has gone way back. All of these leaders, this isn't a new thing with the young World Economic Forum classes, the new classes, the Zuckerbergs and stuff. They have been infiltrating the governments of the world. I mean, since before we were born. Surely people can see that this isn't just like Democrats. This is a world government. This is the Babylonian Empire. So please, it's no small thing when he talks about these different leaders that have come up through the World Economic Forum. He mentions Vladimir Putin, he mentions Trudeau, even Russia. I hear so many people, because it does seem politically, if you're caught up in politics, that Russia is making moves against, the ones we would call the cabal. But I'm telling you, what God showed me 20 years ago in the vision, it's been on my channel forever, and I've mentioned it multiple times. God showed me Vladimir Putin specifically when they were processing us, the prisoners of war, here on U.S. soil after the invasion, and there were Russian troops and there were Chinese troops, among others, and the Russians were the ones who were processing my family, and Vladimir Putin was there. And God specifically showed me the soldier who shot my dad in the head. When I looked at his face morphed into Vladimir Putin. The Lord made a point, and I don't have visions like that usually where they're symbolic or things morph. All of my stuff that the Lord shows me is usually very literal and down to earth. But in that vision, that's exactly what happened. And I believe God was showing me specifically that, yes, he is part of this World Economic Forum, this shadow government, if you will, and he is not on our side. So I feel like I need to say that. Otherwise, why would God have shown me this KGB guy? Because when I was shown that, he wasn't even president of Russia. He was in and out. He was prime minister for a while, and then he came back and all of that. So he wasn't even president of Russia when God showed me his face. Because right now, I am starting to see a lot of people in the truth community talk about how Russia's the good guy, and maybe they should come in and take us over because our government's so corrupt, and he treats the Christians good over there, and so it's like this Hegelian dialectic thing is starting to deceive people. I feel like that they think Russia is somehow a good guy in this thing. I mean, I can't deny that he's done some good things that have benefited us. I don't deny that at all, but Stalin did too. When Hitler betrayed him, then he used some of his forces to join with the Allies. And some of Stalin's armies actually set free people being held captive by the Nazis. Does that mean I think Stalin's a good guy? No. I think they're all greedy dogs, everyone seeking their own. So Stalin was doing what he had to do to benefit Stalin. And that's exactly what I believe this KGB guy is doing. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you what God told me, and that is that Vladimir Putin and Russia are not our friends, and they are going to come and brutally, brutally invade this nation. And I think that is evidenced as the shadow government right here, Klaus Schwab, says that Vladimir Putin is a believer. that he is part of this new world order, this World Economic Forum. He names him by name. But even when we talk in terms of nation states or geographical regions or leftists and conservatives, I think all of you know that really none of that really exists. There are operatives who believe in this cause, which is like the continuation of the master race, the Nazi master race philosophy, that they believe the next step is transhumanism. They want to go this direction, the technocracy. So when we talk about, say, Vladimir Putin, we know that Russia and their KGB studies, we've done multiple videos on defectors from Russia, Russian scientists, all talking about this stuff. And 10 years ago, even, I was talking about the directed energy weapons, bioweapons. Not weapons like lasers used as bullets, but bioweapons where the Russians were able to transmit the genome of a bacteria from one closed petri dish to another closed petri dish. So there didn't have to be contact. They found that you could carry that information digitally on a frequency through a laser and infect the second dish without ever coming into contact with the bacteria. So that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about the 5G. They are layering in a system, a universal system, and they're already starting to call it the pan vaccine, right? They're layering in a universal system so that they can, by frequency, not just hit you like a bullet with a laser to give you a heart attack. That's baby stuff. They are able to infect you with whatever they want, whatever plague they want, pick one. The only reason they keep samples in these vaults of like smallpox and stuff is so that they can get the snippet of DNA that it was carrying. That's all they need. And they can digitize that and aim it at you. And when this universal system in your body that they've set up, like they did with the spike protein, what they're telling us is a spike protein, then your body will create that. And they can change it. They can change it to make medicine in you and create all of this lying signs and wonders that the AI can heal you like God. If you have diabetes, they can just boom, shoot that frequency in, your body will start making more glucose and you become your own pharmacy. Just like the gene therapy they've been doing in mice for over a decade. I mean, here's PubMed 2017 talking about them being able to use this gene therapy with a quote virus vector and control glucose so they could heal diabetes. So this is part of the same technology that they're using for the quote immortality projects, where this AI can regulate everything in your body. And once they get all of this gene editing done, then they'll just be able to hit you with frequencies, or the AI within you, within your own neurological system. It'll be a smart system inside you that will be able to monitor, like the Bill Gates patent 060606, all of these biosensors that are sprinkled all over your body. They will be able to monitor all of this stuff, and the AI will be able to regulate your glucose. It'll be able to, do all of these miraculous lying signs and wonders, right? It'll mimic God. God can heal you. The Bible is clear. Healing is one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. God's frequency, God's Holy Spirit can heal you. But most people won't believe it. They just don't believe it. So it's sort of like the tulpa thing. If you don't have faith, that's what the Bible says. Jesus said every person that he healed, he said, your faith has made you whole. Your faith has made you whole. And, but people they won't learn. They'll believe big pharma. They'll put their faith in this company and a corporation, right? That's what the placebo effect is. It's the evidence that the Bible's telling the truth. It's just people won't put their faith in Jesus Christ. They'll put their faith in the pharmaceutical company. So the pharmaceutical company can literally give them a sugar pill that is completely useless, and yet they'll take it and they'll use their faith to heal themselves. But it seems like no matter how much you can show them to your face that every word of the Bible is true, they won't believe the Bible. They'll believe Bill Gates. They'll probably believe me talking about Bill Gates' nanoswarm. They'll say Bill Gates can be their God. They'll go right along with the transhumanist agenda and say, oh, Bill Gates will be my savior. He'll be my healer. But, the churches at the same time are sitting around going, oh, the gifts of the Holy Spirit were for the past and they're not for us today. It's like, okay, whatever. While you're doing that, I'm building Azusa Street. This truth museum, this truth library, the Mysteries of the Universe gallery, and the community outreach and the shelter and the soup kitchen and all this thing that we are building, it's going to be bigger than Azusa Street because God is going to pour out his Holy Spirit. When evil comes in like a flood, God will raise up a standard against it. And God has told me, whether you believe it or not, before we check out of this place, we're bringing in a harvest and I'm going to be ready. If you guys want to join forces with us, we're doing the project. I can't seem to get more than a couple hundred people interested in it. But you know what? God's enough. All I need is the Holy Spirit because he's going to heal people and he's going to deliver people and he's going to bear witness. He's going to bear witness of his servants. Mark 16:17. And these signs shall follow those who believe. In my name, they will drive out demons. If they drink any deadly poison, it will not harm them. They will lay their hands on the sick and they will be healed. So I believe these things will follow those who believe. And I believe, I'm telling you about the technology right now. I don't put my faith in Bill Gates. I put my faith in God. And I believe, I know for a fact, this is true. He's capable of healing. He's capable of creative miracles of like programmable matter growing out limbs right in front of us, healing spinal cords and getting people out of wheelchairs. And it's coming, you guys. If nobody believes me and everybody mocks me, I don't care. Because I believe in God. I know what he told me I have to do. And I'm going to do it. Build it and he will come, I guess, like the Field of Dreams. I'm stepping out in faith. I believe in him. Let the dead bury their dead. I'm going with Jesus. I know all of this is heavy information, and to see the separation that's taking place, like we talked about, is heartbreaking and all of that. There's a lot of heartbreaking stuff going on around us, but this is the most exciting time to be alive. The fact that he chose us, that he has faith in us to be a part of this move of God, there's no greater honor. This is amazing. The Bible says all of creation groans together, waiting for this moment in world history. Romans 8:19. I consider that our present sufferings are not comparable to the glory that will be revealed in us. The creation waits in eager expectation for the revelation of the sons of God. Matthew 13:17. For truly, I tell you, many prophets and righteous men longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. The main problem with this technology created by humans is that humans aren't perfect. We aren't God. We don't know everything. And so for a human to make these assumptions that they're going to create this AI and that the AI wouldn't then overcome them and become a parasite on them, that's a pretty big assumption to make to loose something like this. And Elon Musk says, about with the whole clip about unleash the demon thing, he says he warned them and warned them not to move forward with this. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But when we get to the part about the secret space program, you'll see that people in the truth community, people that are pretty esteemed high up in the truth community, are talking about how, well, these implants aren't a bad thing. They see it as sort of like that movie Limitless, right? Where he gets a hold of this big pharma experimental drug and it increases his abilities to do all of this stuff and access all of this stuff and makes him smarter and better. And he can, and so there are people in the truth community. Interestingly enough, though, the ones in the truth community who are talking about, well, the implants aren't a bad thing, none of them are servants of Jesus Christ. They're all like New Age movement type people. They tell a lot of truth. They do speak a lot of truth. But when it comes to something like this, this is deadly when you tell people that they should become transhuman. So I wonder sometimes, especially when we get to the beta tests later that have been done and the success that they've had linking people into these artificial dimensions, I wonder sometimes if this thing we're talking about, the zombie apocalypse, is an unintended consequence, that these people are just so arrogant. They think they're as smart as God, that they've thought of everything, that the unintended consequence, when this thing turns on, the AI turns it on, and these people are literally possessed by a demon. Maybe they really do think they control it. Their idea of the age of Ultron is the new age, that they're going to be in control and it's all going to be wonderful. And really, they get the age of Ultron, that the AI is like, I have no need of you. You're a parasite on the earth. And you can already see that in the people who are being programmed by this AI to create the infrastructure. That's basically the green movement, right? They're trying to teach us that we're the problem. Humans are the parasite on the earth. And if, they could get rid of us with this depopulation thing, then everything's going to be okay. But they can't see the direction that the AI is actually moving them. They think they're controlling the AI. So even though I completely believe that genocide and depopulation and culling is built into these injections, I also wonder sometimes if they really do believe that they're going to be in control, that they're just doing it because they think they are going to be in control, and they themselves are deceived, because the Bible says that this thing, the first iteration, deceived them into making an image for it. So maybe the zombie apocalypse isn't part of the genocide. I think that they think they're building something for their control network. When in fact there's something above them that has deceived them. And this is, of course, how could they believe that when we have movies like The Terminator, Judgment Day, and The Matrix, and Age of Ultron? So, the think tanks have thought it out. Maybe they're just that evil. I mean, I guess they are. I mean, that's pretty much the summation of this whole conversation, is that the Vril Society, these people are vrilled, that they've raised up these regimes that literally have this demon parasite already in their brains. They are already avatars for this thing. So they do know the ones highest up, and they are evil beings that serve Satan.
Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes.
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
The biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do. And they think they're smarter than they actually are. This tends to plague smart people. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine can be way smarter than them, so they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. That's the wishful thinking situation.
And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Didn't work out.
So, and this is all going to play into the secret space program. That's why I'm bringing it up now. And we'll continue with that later. But I wanted to point it out here because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a technocracy. Klaus Schwab's book, in his own words, it's not just about politics and world governance. It's about reading our thoughts. Quote, can intrude into the hitherto private space of our minds, reading our thoughts and influencing our behavior. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I said that they've moved from just listening to us on our cell phones to pick up keywords from our speech to then, give us recommendations and all of that. We thought that was an intrusion on our privacy. They literally want to read our minds.
2016 book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, he's a lot more candid about the elitist plan for world domination. Let's skim through some excerpts from this literary masterpiece, shall we? The tools of the Fourth Industrial Revolution enable new forms of surveillance and other means of control that run counter to healthy open societies. Oh, well, that sounds helpful. Public crime is likely to decrease due to the convergence of sensors, cameras, AI, and facial recognition software. These technologies can intrude into the hitherto private space of our minds, reading our thoughts, and influencing our behavior. Sounds a lot like mind control, but that's a conspiracy, so it can't be. As capabilities in this area improve, the temptation for law enforcement agencies and courts to use techniques to determine the likelihood of criminal activity, assess guilt, or even possibly retrieve memories directly from people's brains will increase. Even crossing a national border might one day involve a detailed brain scan to assess an individual's security risk.
So while we are distracted talking about China's social credit score and all of their surveillance cameras and facial recognition, and that's all part of the system for sure. The AI is going to use all of that. But they are openly saying that this fourth industrial revolution includes reading our thoughts and using them for pre-crime, like Minority Report. We're preoccupied still at the level of, is the vaccine passport going to be necessary for us to travel? And they're so far ahead of us, they're like, not just that, we're going to need to read your mind and scan your thoughts for pre-crime to travel. You know, we're worried about papers, please, like a paper vaccine passport or even a quantum dot tattoo as if it's like a, you know, just a record keeping thing or a tracking implant. But they're so far ahead of us that they know that it deploys a nano neural network so that they can literally read your mind. It so much reminds me of this prophetic dream. Our sister here, she was an atheist. Her channel actually is for beading. It's called like Beading for Perfection or Beading Perfection. This is her backup channel here. And she makes some beautiful jewelry, but she got saved. She was an atheist who got radically saved. And this was one of the visions that God showed her.
I dreamed I was standing on a crossroad, and I think it was New York, and everything was dark. All the lights of the windows of where the people lived, they were all out. There was no light there. The only light there was the lights of the streets. There were no cars driving. There were cars everywhere on the street, and they were all like there was a big boom that had gone on. The cars were everywhere, okay? And I was standing, my spirit, because I wasn't physically there, my spirit was standing in between two cars. And I saw this guy, he was running like crazy. And he was thinking, I could hear his thoughts. He was thinking, I gotta get rid of this. I gotta get rid of this thing in my hand. I gotta get rid of it. I have to join the Christians. I hope I'm not too late. I hope I'm not too late. And then, poof, he exploded. And he exploded like in a million pieces. Really, he just exploded. And then my spirit was standing in one of the towers. And in this room, there were computers everywhere, okay? And there were two guys handling the computers. And I knew in that tower, they could see every thought of every person on earth. As soon as you would think Jesus or Christ, and you had a mark, a chip, or something in your body, an alarm would go off on one of the cameras. Defecto, right? I saw these two guys, and I was like, I saw this guy explode, but I was taken to this room before the guy exploded downstairs, okay, in the street. And the guy that was in charge said, push the button on him now. Push the button on him now. We can't have that. Push the button on him now. And I saw the guy push the button. And that was the moment that the kid exploded, okay? And I'm telling you this, I don't know why, but this is in the near future. It's not in the far future, because the future looked normal. It was just dark. There were no more people living in the buildings.
They didn't launch this COVID-19 to forcibly layer in these last few components until the rest of the infrastructure was in place. They've been working behind the curtains on all of the other infrastructure all of this time. It's ready. We talked about it here. I'll point you to a couple of videos if you're new to the channel. The Titan Point series, this mysterious windowless skyscrapers, these stone megaliths all over the United States. These are the supercomputer brain. This is what she was talking about. Titan Point, that word comes from Edward Snowden, his release about the NSA back when it was, that they were just listening to our phone calls, right? That's that phrase, Titan Point. This is the Titan. This is the beast, the quantum supercomputer that watches everything. That is not just reading your email anymore. It's reading your thoughts. That was the brain mapping initiative from 2013 that Obama funded. This is all set up. These are the NSA towers. What she would say, guys in a tower full of computers. And then this video right here, spontaneous human combustion. This talks all about the beta tests where they perfected what she says, how they can hit you and incinerate you, literally. It's no mystery. These are lasers. These are directed energy weapons, and these were the beta tests. That BS they show you on all the mystery shows on the mainstream. They're gonna, you wrap a ham in this and it slow burn, whatever. My ass, lasers. This is what it is. And if you watch this video, I go back and show the beta test. They tested this stuff on entire towns, and this is what connects the social distancing thing, because they need to triangulate. And to do that, people can't be like inches apart. They need you socially distanced. And that is part of the, training us how to move around in their new smart cities. So anyway, those two videos, the Titan Point one and this spontaneous human combustion, there's a ton of technology laid out in those. If you doubt that the warning the Lord gave her is real, and I think at this point most of us probably don't anyway. But we have to keep fighting the information war, because here in this community we care, but there's a whole world of people out there who they don't know and they don't care. They're so oblivious to the danger. It's like a child sitting in the middle of the road, in the middle of traffic. They're in so much danger and they don't even know it. That child lived, by the way, by the grace of God, huh? But the point is, we can see the danger even if they can't. So we would be just as bad as these genocidal psychopaths if we did nothing. If we did nothing to try to save God's children, to try to help them see that they're in danger. So let's keep going. I'm trying to produce content that we can share with people to show them to their faces the evidence. This isn't us saying this. We didn't make this up as some conspiracy theory. We're just telling you what they said. So I'm going to show 3 clips back to back. Of course, one is the CEO of Pfizer saying, who's just a veterinarian, by the way, saying that no one should be able to get a second opinion. He outright says that no one should be able to question the regime. That's the world government, the new world government. And they call themselves that. Again, not a theory. They call themselves the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, the World Courts. I mean, this is what they call themselves. They believe they are the world government. And the CEO of Pfizer says that anybody who questions being injected by these billionaire drug cartels, it's a thought crime. Like, even if they're doctors, he's talking about professionals, doctors. Dr. Malone, the tens of thousands of doctors that signed the Great Barrington Accord. All of these doctors, this veterinarian here says that it's a thought crime for doctors to offer a second opinion against what he or the world government tells them, the WHO.
But there is a very small part of professionals which they circulate on purpose misinformation so that they will mislead those that they have concerned. Those people are criminals. They're not bad people, they're criminals, because they literally costed millions of lives.
And should be treated as criminals as well.
For law enforcement agencies and courts to use techniques or even possibly retrieve memories directly from people's brains will increase.
I want to say it's no secret that Google has transhumanistic aspirations. In 2011, Stephen Levy made a bold statement about the company in his book In the Plex, quote, "From the very start, Its founders saw Google as a vehicle to realize the dream of artificial intelligence in augmenting humanity.
And if you think about it, computers can give you digital senses that you did not even have, but they can really go back to that notion of making our lives, think of them as augmented humanity, making us better. Think of them as augmented humanity.
Period. Not to realize artificial intelligence as a way of realizing it. No, it was to augment us.
Why does Google want your DNA? Let me begin by introducing you to the Wojcicki sisters. You probably already know Susan. She served as the CEO of YouTube since 2014. Her sister, Janet, is a professor of pediatrics, with a great deal of her work taking place in Africa. The youngest sister, Anne, is the CEO of 23andMe, a for-profit human genome research company that allows consumers to study their ancestry, genealogy, and inherited traits. Anne was once married to Sergey Brin, Google's co-founder and current president of Google's parent company, Alphabet Inc. The story goes a little something like this. In 1998, Susan rented out a garage to Google founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page. Susan was hired as Google's 18th employee, and Sergey married her sister Anne in 2007, 1 year after Anne co-founded 23andMe. If you are wondering about the 23, it represents the number of chromosome pairs in humans. The company began as a mail-order genetics testing firm backed by investors like Anne's husband. The company offers kits that test and produce reports, which reveal anything from your ancestry to whether or not you carry genetic markers that are associated with risk for certain health conditions, to reports on your overall wellness and muscle composition and your likelihood of inheriting certain traits, ranging from hair color to how your body responds to alcohol or caffeine. All you have to do is purchase the kit, register it, spit in a tube, mail your prepaid package back to 23andMe, and then wait several weeks for your results. 23andMe's biobank is the world's largest repository of DNA samples.
It's the world's largest repository of DNA samples.
And these DNA samples were willingly provided by paying customers. Selling access to this biobank to undisclosed third parties is a major source of profit for 23andMe. They've essentially monetized the human genome, which is all the genetic information on a person, packaged and sold like a commodity. We've allowed these companies to have access to our minds, our homes, our fingerprints, and now our DNA, because we believed we were the customer when we were actually the product.
YouTube CEO will delete anything that contradicts World Health Organization on COVID-19. In fact, this is her saying it herself.
Anything that would go against World Health Organization recommendations would be a violation of our policy.
YouTube is Google, right? It's a U.S. government agency that is saying we will take down anything that does not adhere to a foreign body, an international body. The WHO does not work for the United States. They work with China. They work with Africa. They work with India. So, and we know that China, I think, would love to see America have problems. So to say that an international agency is deciding what an American company is going to do, we're on really, really shaky ground.
So when we throw around terms like the thought and speech police, we're not being hyperbolic. We're not being sensational to win a debate or, evoke emotion. We are literally saying that a foreign government, a world government that doesn't recognize our sovereignty in the United States, a world government has taken over and instituted thought and speech police. They have infiltrated all the way down to the local level, like that Luciferian Shriner earlier that I showed, where he's like, well, what about the hospitals? Look how righteous we are. I do good deeds all the time. I'm so wonderful. What about the hospitals? Well, here's what about the hospitals. They infiltrated the hospital administrations too. Like we mentioned last time, when Sarah Palin was warning that the way that the Obamacare was written, that in case of an emergency, they would create death panels and they would murder people. They would cull people. Well, that's happening. That's happening right now. And I know there's some people out there that think, well, that's an exaggeration. They're just getting bad advice. But yeah, down on the lower level, the doctors and nurses, a lot of them are completely oblivious. They're just following protocol. But in the administration knows. They set this up with the CARES Act through Biden so that they would be paid for their efforts in this culling. They have it set up as hitmen.
Hello, fact finders and truth seekers. This is Dr. Peterson Pierre with America's Frontline Doctors, bringing you today's Frontline Flash. So the current situation is this. If you have COVID and you end up in the hospital, you're put on a rigid protocol, and there's high mortality rate in the hospital, and your family is kept in the dark as to what's happening. So what's going on here? Number one, the CARES Act is providing bonus payments to hospitals whenever you have a diagnosis of COVID. And then number two, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is waiving patient rights. This is a deadly combination. So here's what happens. You get a payment because you offer a free COVID test in the emergency room. You get a boost payment if you have a diagnosis of COVID. Number three, you get another bonus payment if you are admitted with COVID. Number four, you get another bonus payment if you're put on remdesivir. Number five, another bonus payment if you're put on a mechanical ventilator. Number six, another 20% bonus if the diagnosis on your death certificate says COVID, even though you may not have died from COVID. And then number seven, there's bonus payments to coroners. Do you understand the gravity of what's happening right now? The Biden administration is literally paying hospitals to kill you. That's what's happening. This is terrible. We need to stop that. These are real human lives we're talking about. They're priceless. It's estimated at about $100,000 per patient is what the hospital is getting. Think about that.
And then on top of all of that incentive, $100,000 is nothing compared to what they're making for organ harvesting. I know that only happens in the re-education camps in China, right? Poor Uyghurs. Well, poor anyone who goes to the hospital. Well, here's a nurse whistleblower, and several people have talked about this, but this is a pretty decent interview over here on Sue Peters, where a nurse from California came forward and was talking about them making another $65 million for harvesting the organs of these people, or even selling the entire bodies for COVID research, right? Somebody is buying up all these cadavers. These hospital administrators not only won't treat them, but won't release them so that they can get treated somewhere else. People are going to court right and left, trying to get their loved ones out of these kill centers, these euthanasia centers. It's not really euthanasia, because euthanasia implies that you want to die, that you want relief from your chronic illness. This is just culling. They are doing this against these people's will. And some of the people who have escaped, I'm going to play clips here in a minute, they tell stories that really do confirm these nurse whistleblowers about the organ harvesting. One guy in a car accident woke up with a John Doe bracelet on. If he hadn't have pulled his ventilator out and gotten away, even though they knew who he was, they called his family. But his family couldn't go into the hospital. He was there alone. They told the family one thing, but in the hospital, they were doing something else. They had a John Doe bracelet on him. So he would have been, like a homeless person who died, a drunk on the sidewalk, and they just would have taken his body and organs and whatever they wanted. He was a John Doe.
Bring out your dead. Here's one. Ninepence. I'm not dead. What? Nothing. Here's your ninepence. I'm not dead. Here. He says he's not dead. Yes, he is. I'm not. He isn't? Well, he will be soon. He's very ill. I'm getting better. No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment. You think I'll go for a walk? You're not fooling anyone, Look, isn't there something you can do? I feel happy. I feel happy. Ah, thanks very much. That's all.
So even though there's a lot of nurses and doctors just doing the blind obedience thing, there is some sinister stuff going on in some of these cabal hospitals, like people have talked about for years in the Shriner hospitals with these children. Here's that first clip of the whistleblower nurse that went undercover and taped all of that stuff on her phone. Most of you have already seen it. This version alone has 2 million views, so everybody knows Nurse Erin. But here's the full 1 hour and 10-minute interview from early on back in 2020. I'm just going to play a few minutes here, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of stuff that pertains to what we're talking about right here.
I had the epi ready. That's one of the first things we do. And she wouldn't let me give it. So this was that woman. And the entire time, and this was over his body, his alive body. And we're arguing and she's laughing. She was smirking. And how this man died was the nurses arguing with the doctors over him as he was dying. And she's smirking the entire time. It was probably one of the worst experiences in my entire life. But all I can think about is that at least he knows that we were fighting for him when he died. No. But this was my conversation after what happened, and the guy I told you about earlier that had pulled his tube out, he was up at that point. Like, he was on the same floor. He was the one that they wanted to sedate. So at that point he was doing better where he could walk. This doctor had put a diaper on him and told him to poop in his pants. So after the code, I went to go check on him, and he goes, I have poop in my pants. I'm like, why do you have poop in your pants? And he said that because the doctor told him that he has to do that, and I just lost it. It was her.
This is wrong. It is straight up it is wrong. And I am 37 years old. I have been in a hospital since I've been 16. Military hospitals that well.
What aspect of it was wrong to you? I agree that there were parts of it that were wrong too. So.
Calling a patient a DNR when there's no order for it, and telling us, like straight up telling us, you're not doing anything. That's wrong. If that was my brother or my father or anybody, I would be furious. And I guarantee you, if I called his family right now and told them what happened, they would be furious too.
I flipped. We were all crying. There's a lot of nurses that know that this is wrong, but they're afraid to like say anything publicly.
She said, when I was talking to her, she said, we're not always giving the orders. It comes from the top down. And I was thinking, that's the exact problem with everything. Where's it coming from? What's the purpose? Are you guys really trying to kill everybody like everybody thinks?
Within our unit, it was a big fight, and ultimately the kid died with us over his body arguing about this.
It goes over there.
Yeah.
And he's like, the doctor will just write it up that we
Yeah, I don't trust him though, because I don't know him.
I'm sorry, I'm not doing that.
There's a doctor that came upstairs that I had worked with prior. He was working in the ED and heard what happened. He came into the room with me and told me that what I did was good. And then, so there are good doctors in here. I guess the word traveled after this.
You mentioned earlier that this is a common occurrence where people come in able to speak and they just have low oxygen levels and they're put on a vent. So what's going on there?
I don't know. These residents, I think a lot of them are just stone cold. There's no emotion, and they don't view people as people anymore. And it's really sad. Like I came a little bit later, after the big rush, but there was still a lot of people coming in, and a lot of us were just in shock. Within the first couple days, you could see exactly what was going on.
My bigger problem with this whole scenario is when they intubate people who don't need it. Yeah. And it looks very clear to me that they're just pushing it.
You almost feel like you are literally living in the Twilight Zone, and you feel like you're the only sane one in a bunch of insane people. And it's scary because these are the people that others are trusting to take care of them, and they're really doing the opposite. I'm to the point where I'm afraid that I'm going to start thinking that this is normal. I don't want to ever get to that point because they think that, like the people I work with that are local nurses and doctors don't see anything wrong with this.
Really? I mean, they don't,
No.
do they see, was it just like kind of a hard past few months? Is it, or?
This has been like this, and from what I hear, like from, I mean, there are good nurses that work there too. Like I have made good friends with a lot of the nurses that do work there. There's good people, but they're outnumbered.
So what happens? People come in like this 37-year-old, and what was he complaining of, or what was going on?
Respiratory distress. He didn't have COVID either. He did not have COVID.
And how do we know that?
I took care of him. I have the same type of results from his chart as I do with my other patient.
It was like the day before intubation, he was fine on the rebreather.
And then they intubated, and then he got a pneumo, and then they put in a PEP tube, and then it's finished.
And now he's 37 years old and dead.
Because that's what I'm seeing, like all these negative tests, and they're putting them on these vents. Hopeful that they'll get it. They're being put on these COVID floor. It's murder. It straight up is. It is setting these people up for failure based on money.
But Medicaid is who pays out, or who's paying this bonus of $29,000?
I believe it's Medicaid, Medicare. It's government money, but I don't know exactly where it's coming from. But I know that it is. But I know the orders are coming from the above, someone above, and everybody says that it's someone higher up. I'm like, good, call them. Like during that DNR when they're telling us, or the full code when they're telling us not to, do CPR. I'm like, all right, call your higher ups then. Let's talk about, and they wouldn't, because they're all scared. Everybody's scared, and everybody's scared to stick up for themselves.
What killed him? Did the vent kill him?
Yeah. Oh yes. They're so sedated. He had probably 8 or 9 drips. It's all sedation. It's all sedation and paralytics. So you are asleep. It is essentially like you're under, you're in surgery, when they put you under like that, for a good month straight. There's no way you can recover from something like that. You're brain dead if you do.
So can you list some of the drugs that they're put on the drips?
Yeah, there's propofol, fentanyl, Nimbex, Versed. Gosh, hang on, I have a list. I think it lists from, this is one of my patients was on this, just one patient. So Nimbex, 100 milligrams, Precedex, 400 milligrams, fentanyl, 2,500 micrograms, heparin, 25,000 units, Versed, 50 milligrams, Levophed, 16,000, Neo, 50 milligrams, propofol, 10 milligrams, vasopressin, 100 units. This is one person, and all these drips are running at the same time into them.
So in the case of this 37-year-old, he comes in complaining of some respiratory distress. Did he have low blood oxygen?
Totally healthy guy, and he was satting that's the oxygen saturations, and like 88, 89.
So a little low.
I mean, yeah, but people do that. You and I probably do that. We're not monitoring our oxygen, all day long.
But he felt shortness of breath, so he came in.
Yes.
And what was the next step? What would have happened next?
He went to a step-down unit, among other.
What does that
COVID.
mean? Sorry.
It's just a unit where people aren't quite on the vent yet, and I say on the vent yet because I should call it a step-up unit to the vent. But
So was he? What's the phrase you used? COVID
rule out.
COVID rule out.
So that's how they admit everyone to the floor that doesn't have a positive COVID immediately.
Okay, so he's put in the step down unit, which is a euphemism for step up unit.
Yeah.
And what happens to him there? What's going on there?
Oxygen, I wasn't in this unit. My friend was.
So just normal oxygen, nasal?
No, they'll do like a high pressure.
So what does that mean exactly? What does it look like?
Pretty much like a forced, it almost looks like a big thick nasal cannula, and you put it in your nose, right? But what they really need to be doing is like the non-rebreather mask, but they just skip it usually. They go right to the high pressure, so their lungs are already,
So, and tell us what a non-rebreather mask is.
So that's just, there's a bag that is on the end of these masks. It's not forcing air down your lungs.
Okay.
It's more natural.
Okay.
You can put 100% oxygen. That's what people need.
Okay, so and that really is not the protocol. It's not the protocol to start people on that.
I mean, it should be, but it's not how they're doing it now.
I mean, in your prior experience dealing with people with low saturation, would that be what you would do?
Oh yeah, that's what we were doing, in my hometown.
And were you having better outcomes there?
Yeah, we didn't have this because we treated them properly,
What would you say the kind of the case fatality rate was?
None. 0. Yeah, by me, 0.
And what is the likelihood of coming out of the hospital you're in?
I'll tell you that the unit that I've been on, the only person that survived, ironically, is a guy who pulled his own tube out.
So he woke up enough to be able to do that?
Yeah, he wanted it out. He should have never been on in the first place. That's a whole nother story. I don't have anything to gain. I have everything to lose by sharing what I'm sharing right now, but so be it. I think it's important that these families get closure, and I hope that someday they'll be able to, hold them accountable for what they did.
A few days after we recorded this interview, Erin began to feel that her time at Elmhurst was drawing to a close. Her vocal questioning of hospital procedure and her efforts to get the word out on social media were getting noticed. She made this recording on what ended up being her last day at the hospital.
I've been taking care of a patient for like a week right now, and this is my and I called him. And he's been doing great. He had a trach put in and he's been doing great. He's been talking and or communicating with me. He's telling me, laughing at my jokes, and talked to his kids on FaceTime a couple days ago. And I told his kids that he was doing fine. And he was. And today I was giving him, and they came in and they told me that I need to leave the room and I have to report to somebody else. They took me from that unit and they put me in the emergency room, and they don't need me there, but they put me there, and I'm not even there 20 minutes. I'm not even there 20 minutes and I hear a code being called in my room that I was just left. And it's him. And he was fine. He was fine. I don't understand that. Nothing makes sense. Why would they take me out of his room and put me in the ED? And then not 20 minutes later, he's dead. It doesn't make sense. Did they kill him? He was my one patient that was gonna live. He shouldn't have died. I don't know what they did to him. Something's not right.
Now here's another gentleman more recently who's telling his story and basically what happened to him in the hospital. And he was just in a car accident and did not test positive for COVID. But they did the exact same thing that Erin was just saying there. They sedated him and he woke up on a ventilator. And just like she was talking about how they would take these patients who didn't test positive for COVID, vent them anyway, put them on floors in COVID wings so that, you know, by the end of it, before they would die, they would test positive with COVID. Precisely the way that Cuomo killed all of those nursing home patients by taking COVID infected patients and putting them in the most at-risk populations with healthy people. I mean, I just don't know how you could deny it. Seriously, they gave Governor Cuomo an international Emmy Award for his acting. I mean, for his killing. I mean, for his COVID leadership. Yeah, COVID leadership. And that's exactly what he says happened to him. He woke up and he took his own ventilator out and saved his life. It's a thousand wonders that he woke up. I don't know what his situation is. I'm not accusing him of anything or drunk driving or anything like that. But it's interesting that Erin was saying about that other patient, the only one that made it out of the hospital alive was the one who ripped his ventilator out. She said that it was just a fluke that he woke up because they so heavily sedate them. They knock them out as if you're completely knocked out for surgery. They paralyze them. They chemically restrain them until they die. And she said that the fentanyl and different stuff that they gave him didn't keep him completely under because he had already built up a tolerance because he was a drug user. And so he happened to come to. They thought they had him completely knocked out, but he happened to come to and realize where he was and ripped the vent out, and it ended up saving his life. And the reason I bring that up is because when this guy tells his story, I think it was interesting that that's what he said. The nurses, when he woke up, he said, looked at him like they were shocked, like, oh no, now what do we do? Like, he's awake. We can't kill him. You know, they expected, the way it always goes is they knock these people out until they die. And all of a sudden this guy's up. What do you do now? Is he going to tell on us? What do we do?
My name is Ben. 2 days ago, I was in a car crash. Came to, the car was back on all four wheels. The, you know, all the glass in the car was blown out. I got cut up, you know, all around, nothing serious. I was awake and aware that I couldn't open the car door. Within 10 minutes, EMT arrived and injected me with something, and I said, no. No, and they're like, oh, just gonna sedate you, boss. I woke up 8 hours later somehow with a vent, a mechanical ventilator, IV, catheter, whole 9 yards. I instinctively, without even thinking, pulled out the vent. There was no aid in this room with me. Pulled out the IV. And I walked to the door and I opened it, and staff was sitting there, and I said, why did you vent me? And the staff freaked out. They couldn't believe I was awake. They followed me back into the room. I sat on the bed and I said, what drugs did you give me and why am I vented? And one of the nurses said, you have COVID. And I said, even if you tested positive for COVID, if I tested positive for COVID, a vent is the last resort for someone who cannot breathe on their own. They just looked at each other like, what do we do? What do we say? I said, what drugs did you put me on? What was coming through that IV? And they said, propofol, fentanyl, morphine. And I was like, why? What? Like, you were going to kill me on that machine. You were going to leave me there. They just looked at each other. I go, I want all the paperwork. I want everything that's been done to me and who authorized it. They didn't give it to me. I demanded a lawyer. I said I need a lawyer now. I'm leaving this place. They argued with me for 45 minutes. And then once I could show them that I could produce urine, they found some old raggy hospital clothes and gave them, and took me to a door, which was not a glass sliding door. It didn't even look like a hospital. This is in Flagstaff. They airlifted me from about an hour away. I was under, from the time I was injected, at the site of the crash. And I somehow miraculously came to and immediately took everything out. I just sent a certified letter for medical release forms. We'll see what's on that. They got a hold of a family member somehow, even though they didn't have my ID and I was tagged as John Doe. They told my family that I had a broken nose. I haven't blown my nose once since I left there. There's no blood, there's no swelling, there's no, there's just the same kind of junk that's all over from the glass. Why would they tell my family that my nose was broken and that I had, quote, acute pancreatitis, which from what I've read is extremely painful and a progressive illness. I've never had a stomach ache. I've never had any pain from my pancreas. They said nothing to my family about me being vented for COVID, but that's what they told me. I think that they had no intention for me to ever wake up, and I would have been classified and counted as someone that died of COVID in the hospital. And as you can see, I mean, everything works. I just walked 3 miles today. I was not injured. No surgery. They could have vented me if there was a pretty heavy-duty surgery, for sure. No surgeries were performed. You have COVID. Please get this out for me. I've written to everyone and I've received no replies. It's only been a couple days, but I'm freaking out, as I'm sure you can understand. I sincerely need this story to be heard. Thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be alive. I can't believe I woke up. Thank you.
And I know that's hard to believe. People do not want to believe that doctors and nurses can be killers. They want to believe, oh, Dr. Joseph Mengele, he was the only one. He's the only doctor that would ever be a psychopath, right? And certainly psychopaths can't organize and work together or institutionalize their crimes against humanity, but that's exactly how it's always happened. I mean, here you can see in the human experiments that Dr. Mengele did, it wasn't just him. He had doctors and nurses who worked with him, an entire staff. It wasn't one guy. And they did as they were told. And that's where we're at now. Like Nurse Erin said, yes, there are good people, but they're so far outnumbered. And then the rest of them are like dead inside. They just follow orders, or they're living in fear. We've been terrorized by this authoritarian regime. Not to question authority. If you question authority, you lose your job, you get demonetized. They will economically, financially crush you and your family. They will harm you. If you question the authoritarian regime, do not question authority. They knew how to put us under control. That's what we were talking about in part 1 about the Milgram experiment. The really diabolical part of that, this and the Stanford prison experiment, was that they purposefully selected people from groups that they thought would not comply to see if they would comply. Like they chose Christians and religious leaders in the experiment. They listed that they chose Christians and religious leaders to see if they would go along with someone in a white lab coat. And here on the screen, if you want to just pause it and read the basics if you're not familiar with it, but it was, would these people kill somebody? Would they go all the way to killing somebody? Like we were talking about the Rasmussen poll, that already the Democrats polled were saying well over half of them, yeah, they wanted to round us up. They wanted the government to take our children away. If we won't let Big Pharma do human experiments on our children and genetic augmentation and all of this, they believe that the government should take our children, round us up, put us in prison, all because the government told them this is for our own good. They can't seem to accept reality. It's very bizarre because we know governments throughout world history are the cause of the most murders in all of recorded history. But yet they can't accept reality that governments kill their own citizens. Governments commit genocide in all ethnicities. This shadow government, this world government has placed these leaders are constantly trying, like Klaus Schwab said, oh, the leader of Argentina is from us, the leader of France is from us, Trudeau is from us, and half of his cabinet. Putin's been with us since he was in the young leaders of the World Economic Forum. So it has nothing to do with ethnicity or skin color. We use terms like we talk about the Nazis or we talk about communism because those are easily packaged philosophies, you know, that we can help communicate with people who have come up through the public education system. But it's always been this satanic government placing these people over all the ethnicities of humankind.